In South Africa, the 15th BRICS Summit began in Johannesburg, where heads of state of more than 34 countries meet to discuss partnership and for mutually accelerated growth. Greek authorities reported the finding of 18 bodies in the northeast of the country, where firefighters are battling a large forest fire. And in Zimbabwe, citizens get ready to decide who will be the next president. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The 15th summit of the BRICS group started on Tuesday in Johannesburg, South Africa, and will conclude on the 24th. The day began with a business forum with the participation of ministers from the participating countries. Later, the leaders of the organization, led by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, made their speeches before meeting behind closed doors. 34 heads of states and government from Africa and Asia, as well as Latin America, are expected to participate in the summit. Today, 22 countries have formally expressed their interest in joining the BRICS. The summit will address issues such as de-dollarization, the entry of new members to the bloc, and the creation of a new common currency of their own. While speaking at the 15th meeting of BRICS Business Forum leaders, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa offered some statistics on the impact of the BRICS group in the global economy.
Together, the BRICS countries make up a quarter of the global economy. They account for a fifth of global trade and are home to more than 40% of the world's population. This agglomeration of these 5 countries has a major impact on various aspects of the global activity and life.
Furthermore, President Cyril Ramaphosa expanded on the BRICS group statistics and stressed that the new wave of protectionism and subsequent impact of unilateral measures undermine the global economic growth and development.
The 15th anniversary of BRICS. Trade between BRICS countries totaled some $162 billion last year. Foreign investment has played an important role in the growth of BRICS economies. Total annual foreign direct investment into BRICS countries is 4 times greater than it was 20 years ago. However, the new wave of protectionism and subsequent impact of unilateral measures that are incompatible with WTO rules undermine the global economic growth and development. We therefore need to reaffirm our position that economic growth must be underpinned by transparency, by inclusiveness. It must be compatible with a multilateral trading system that supports a developmental agenda.
During his speech at the BRICS Summit, the Brazilian president referred to the development potential of the African continent.
The African continent was a priority for Brazil. I have made 12 trips to Africa and have been to 21 countries. Brazil is back on the continent where it should never have left. Africa has vast opportunities and enormous potential for growth.
The Brazilian president also called attention to the climate crisis and desertification affecting the African continent.
Africa is the region of the world that emits the least amount of greenhouse gases. However, this does not mean that it does not have to face the most perverse consequences of global warming, such as droughts, floods, fires, and cyclones. Brazil and many African countries have comprehensive plans to renew energy mixes. We share the responsibility of caring for tropical rainforests and preserving biodiversity. We share the common concern of fighting the certification process, environmental and ecosystem services provided by rainforests to the world, they must be paid for in a fair and equitable manner. Social diversity products can generate jobs and income and offer alternatives to the predatory exploitation of natural resources.
Russian President Vladimir Putin gave a speech at the BRICS Business Forum, which is taking place on Tuesday in the South African city of Johannesburg. Putin is participating in the event via video conference.
To fine-tune effective mechanisms of mutual settlements and monetary and financial control. As a result, the share of US dollar export and import operations within BRICS is declining. Last year, it was only 28.7%. In fact, this summit is to discuss the entire range of issues related to the transition to national currencies in all areas of economic cooperation between our 5 nations. The new BRICS Development Bank, which has already become a credible alternative to existing Western development institutions, has a great role to play in these efforts.
Addressing the 15th meeting of BRICS Business Forum leaders, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi stressed that India's economic growth is due to its ability to overcome difficulties and referred also to several measures taken by his government to promote India's economic growth alongside the world's major economy.
Has converted crises and difficulties into opportunities for economic improvements. In the last few years, we have carried out reforms in mission mode, and these reforms have helped in continuously improving ease of doing business in India. We have also reduced the complexity burden. We have removed tape and instead laid the red carpet. There has been a boost in investor confidence due to introduction of GST and the implementation of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code.
For his part, the Chinese Minister of Commerce Wang Wentao, on behalf of President Xi Jinping, highlighted the needs of the international community.
Has become a community with a shared future in which we all share a huge stake of survival. What people in various countries long for is definitely not a new Cold War or a small exclusive bloc. What they want is an open, inclusive, clean, and beautiful world that enjoys enduring peace, universal security, and common prosperity. Such is the logic of historical advance and the trend of our times.
We now welcome our special envoy in South Africa, Jorge Gestoso, with the latest updates on the BRICS Summit.
Here in South Africa, the Economic Forum has already ended, and now the participants, the leader of the BRICS, we're talking Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, went into a retreat, and they're going to be discussing mostly what is going to be the expansion of the members of the BRICS. We're talking about 40 countries have already shown interest to get in, and more than 20 have already officially requested the entrance of the group. That could be a turning point in the economy and also in the world balance of power, in the power of the dollar as a global currency, an alternative of different currencies that are represented in this group. Before that, in that economic forum that was the opening of this summit, the leaders of this group has already spoken, and we're talking about Brazil, Lula da Silva, we're talking about Prime Minister Modi of India, also the President of Putin has spoken via teleconference, and it was a little bit of a surprise that President of China, Xi Jinping, he didn't show up at this closing of the forum. That was supposed to be there, and in his place was represented by the Minister of Commerce. But what is very important is that tonight could be grabbing the whole thing, could end up in the consensus of who could be part of this expansion of the countries. So maybe by tomorrow we have some indication, and also as a second part of basically the agenda of this summit is the increase of interaction of these countries with using their own local currencies instead of the global dollar that has been so far the principal currency throughout the world. And the last day of the summit, we're talking about the day of Thursday, the other countries that has been invited here, international participants that has nothing to do specifically with the 5 countries, are going to be interacting with the members of the BRICS, because the philosophy of the BRICS has been explained by President Lula is not to compete with the G7, for example, but in be part of the world trade, part of the global economy. They don't see themselves as a rival, they see themselves as a new part of the world, a new order, a new balance, and a new, basically a new chapter in the global economy. We get back to you now.
Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the south. Leaders of several Balkan countries traveled to Athens on Monday, along with senior European Union officials, to discuss the European future of the countries in the region. Greece's Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis welcomed the leaders of the Balkan nations to Athens on Monday. The meeting comes on the 20th anniversary of the summit between the European Union and the Western Balkan countries. In the evening, the Greek Prime Minister met with the presidents of Serbia, Montenegro, and Moldova, the Prime Ministers of Northern Macedonia, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Romania, and with the head of the Council of Ministers of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Mitsotakis also met with several of them individually. Notable absence is that of Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama, at a time when relations between Greece and its northwestern neighbor have deteriorated over the imprisonment of Greek ethnic minority leader Fredi Beledi. Also in Greece, authorities report the finding of 18 bodies in the northeast of the country, where firefighters are battling a large forest fire. Hundreds of firefighters are trying to quell dozens of places, including several that have been burning out of control for several days and have forced widespread evacuations, the second deadly wave of fires in Greece in a month. The bodies were found near a shack in the Avanta area, north of the town of Alexandroupolis, close to Greece's borders with Turkey and Bulgaria. A disaster victim identification team was working at the scene. Late summer heatwave breaks records as wildfires continue to rage across swath of continental Europe. In Japan, the government announced that the discharge of treated radioactive water from the accident-prone Fukushima nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean will begin on Thursday, August 24, according to the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida.
Tokyo Electric Power to prepare promptly for the start of ocean discharge based on the plan approved by the Nuclear Regulatory Authority, with discharge scheduled for August 24 if weather and sea conditions do not prevent it.
In this context, 100 Japanese protested in front of the Prime Minister's official residence against the decision taken by the government to pour polluted water into the sea as of August 24th. Despite the strong domestic and international opposition, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida announced a controversial decision after a ministerial meeting held on Tuesday morning. As a result, the country's fishing community, and in particular Local fishermen in Fukushima have expressed their rejection because of the new impact that the spill will have on the reputation of the area's wild catches, which are already suffering from the consequences of the nuclear crisis. In 2011, Fukushima's plant suffered a level 7 nuclear accident, the highest on the international scale of nuclear and radiological events, after the region was hit by a 9.0 magnitude earthquake and a subsequent tsunami.
Allow Japan to dump contaminated nuclear water into it. China strongly urged Japan to stop its misconduct, cancel the dumping plan, communicate with neighboring countries with sincerity and goodwill, dispose of water responsibly, and accept strict international supervision.
In this regard, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson referred to the importance of the ocean for humanity and urged Japan to abandon its plan to dump wastewater.
The Japanese government, disregarding the serious concern and determined opposition of the international community, insisted on announcing the plan to discharge the nuclear contaminated water from the Fukushima plant on 24 August. This blatantly transferred the risk of nuclear contamination to the whole world and puts its own interest above the long-term welfare of humanity, which is an extremely selfish and irresponsible move.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Zimbabwe, 2 days before the general elections, the population of the Southeast African country is getting ready to decide who will be the next president. The presidential and parliamentary elections on Wednesday are crucial in determining the future of a southern African nation endowed with vast mineral resources and rich agricultural land. Zuma PF party leader Emerson Mnangagwa, who came to power in 2017 after deposing Robert Mugabe with the backing of the military, will seek re-election on Wednesday. Meanwhile, a deeply divided opposition hampered by a series of court cases has struggled to capitalize on public outrage over the near collapse of government services, triple-digit inflation, and high poverty rates. In this context, on Monday, Zimbabwe's largest opposition party, the Citizens for Change Coalition, held its campaign closing ceremony in the capital, Harare. More than 10,000 people, many of them dressed in bright yellow, gathered to provide the last sign of support for the opposition leader before the elections. The demonstration was the end of a tough campaign in which dozens of campaign meetings of candidate Nelson Chamisa were banned and some of his supporters were attacked by alleged activists of ZANU-PF, the ruling party. In his speech, Chamisa assured that he will be victorious and that he is the only guarantee for a better future, although the latest polls show him below his opponent.
Go and vote for your future. Go and vote for opportunity. Go and vote for happiness. Go and vote for light. We are going to have a president for everyone. We are going to have a government for everyone. We are going to have an economy for everyone. We are going to make a Zimbabwe to be a Zimbabwe for everyone.
The president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, is on the last day of his visit to Angola on Tuesday before continuing a tour that will take him to Namibia, Mozambique and South Africa, where he will participate in the BRICS Summit. The Cuban president paid tribute to the 2,085 combatants who offered their lives together with the Angolan people in the struggle to preserve independence, in addition to 204 others who died while carrying out civilian tasks. The head of state will also visit Angola, Cuba's school, considered a symbol of brotherhood between the two nations and recently rehabilitated thanks to the integrated plan of municipal intervention. On Monday, the Cuban head of state held official talks with his counterpart Joao Lourenço, with whom he ratified the will to strengthen and diversify the bilateral cooperation. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.